Welcome to a new episode of Potation Rotation presents Rewind and Rewatch. And today, I've got Keith joining me on this adventure, because he might be doing some video game related movies later as far as actual IPs, and what we're covering today really just covers is a big Nintendo commercial. So whatever. It's called Raymond Jr., aka the Wizard.
California.
Fucker. The movie, The Wizard. We're gonna get some of the basics out of the way, and it's gonna be very basic because we're gonna dive deep into this one. So the movie was directed by Todd Holland, came out in 1989, by the way, and it was written by
Spider-Man?
No, Todd Holland.
Oh.
Not Tom.
Oh. Okay.
Todd.
All right.
Tom Holland was even born in 89?
No, that dude.
Probably not.
He's like 23.
Yeah. It was written by David Chisholm, and it stars Fred Savage as Corey Woods, Luke Edwards as Jimmy Woods, and musician now, Jenny Lewis, as Haley. I don't think we ever found out what her last name was, but she was a compulsive liar who apparently liked to gamble and hang out with black truckers. Anyway, and I remember when this movie was going to come out, how big of a deal it was for 12-year-old me and my other 12-year-old friends, or 11 to 13, whatever age range that we were in. You were 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it doesn't hit as hard for you.
I mean, yeah, finish what you were going to say.
By the way, I'm drinking water.
I mean, I saw it when I was young, in the 90s, but I don't really remember. Of course, the only thing I remembered was the end of the movie. The tournament with Super Mario Brothers 3.
Yeah.
So I was a kid, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know video games. That's all I could remember from when I was a kid. So watching it for this show was technically my second time.
Right.
Watching it. No, well, yeah. It's my second time watching it because I didn't really remember it when I was a kid.
Right.
I watched it when, maybe 5 years ago or something.
And that's really like the point of the program is there's a movie that is a well-known bomb, basically. A movie that, whether it's got a cult following or not, a movie that's just bad. That we've seen as a kid, how does it hit as an adult? And is it worth watching again as an adult? So that's why I'm...
But I think that the interesting thing, too, is cause what you just said is it was like, that movie is your target audience back then. That was like, for Nintendo kids, you know? Whereas I kind of adopted that whole culture eventually, in the mid-90s, but watching it when I was an adult, 5 years ago or whatever, whenever that first time I actually watched it, I'm like, oh, so this is literally just a commercial for Nintendo. Hey, you playing? It's like every time they're playing a game, they're just like, you playing Nintendo? This is like when your parents all they even if they see a PS4 somewhere, they're just like, oh, you're just playing your Nintendo.
Yeah.
But there are a couple games in the movie that aren't technically Nintendo, they are arcade games, but most of it's Nintendo, especially the part where what's the fucking asshole kid, Lucas?
Yeah.
When he's like, I got all 98 Nintendo games.
Yeah.
Nintendo.
Yeah.
It is just one giant commercial, and seeing it as an adult and not have experienced it as a kid, when you were when it came out, it's very different, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah, it was. I remember going to see it at the theater, and we were excited to see it, number one. And we were excited when we walked out, especially because that ending, OMG, nobody saw Super Mario Brothers 3 coming, at all.
So, yeah, nobody this was like the reveal
Right.
of Super Mario Bros. 3 to the Western world, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And we're going to touch on that a little bit later. But it was exciting. It got everybody talking about it. It got everybody all hyped up for Super Mario Bros. 3, which was only a few months out from release at that point. That's Nintendo started talking about it a little bit more, and yeah, and I remember like when it came out on VHS, like even though Mario Brothers had been out, like we still liked it, and like we would rent it and watch it again. And so as a kid, I must have seen it probably like 3, 4, 5 times. And I think at some point a little later, like I'm talking like at this point, like maybe in high school, in passing, it might have been on TV or something, and I was kind of watching it, and I'm like, I just wasn't interested in it. Like, it was done for me,
To me, I think it's a very boring movie.
All right, well, let's hold on.
I think it's
Hold on.
And again, why I say technically have seen it twice. Technically, it's more like 3 times, because when watching it for this show, I fell asleep the first time and had to rewatch it because I would have otherwise.
That's because that night you chose dry rub over sauce.
Probably, man. Dry rub wears you out.
So
Takes a lot out of you.
The plot of the movie is basically, it is literally Rain Man Jr. It's a Rain Man movie. You got one kid. Well, I mean, you got 3 kids, but you got one kid who is seemingly normal as far as intelligence goes, taking his mentally challenged brother on a road trip. And then they find out that he's got a little something special going on with him, that he's almost autistic.
They don't specifically say that he has any type of disorders. They kind of beat around the bush with that.
Yeah, because you see him basically building shit with random like blocks and stuff, and then he always says, California. And that's like it. And either...
He has like 4 lines the entire movie. That's generous. He probably has like 2.
Lines? Complete lines.
Well,
he actually has 1, and it's later on. He actually does speak like 5 words strung together, which I don't even remember what the hell they were anymore. But it was... Corey, I don't want to quit.
Oh.
That was... And then all of a sudden Corey is just like, whoa, damn, you spoke? Shit, let's go, son, because that's the, and then like literally later on, at the end of the movie, again, he's back to California, but he's like, California! He's having an orgasm in the car. Anyway, so, I've got some talking points. That's basically the gist of the movie. And he's smart. His smarts is video games, and they gotta get to a, video game. It's called, Video Armageddon, which actually then also birthed the Nintendo Championships that toured around the United States, which I happen to be a part of one of those here in Milwaukee a couple years later.
Well, you're forgetting the whole part of them running around like trying to get away from the Boba Fett of child abductors.
We're gonna get there. We're gonna get to all that shit.
There's also that.
Okay. So I all my talking points go in order from beginning to end for the most part. So you're going to get a gist of what the movie is. But all my talking points are literally problems that I've had with this movie. That's what these are. 6 to 7 pages of problems.
You should take that to Universal and be like, I have a complaint to file.
It even says Rain Man Jr. right at the top. Yeah, I think you're going to know where this episode's going. All right. So the movie, it opens with Jimmy taking a long walk, right, along a highway, when the sheriff comes to pick him up. When asked where he was headed, Jimmy only says,
California.
As he does for most of the movie. Almost like his dog just died. Well, actually, somebody did die, and we're going to cover that later. But supposedly it wasn't recent.
Was it your childhood?
But anyway, you got to keep in mind with this opening scene, Jimmy's by himself. He essentially ran away, right? He ran away Sounds like he does that. He takes his trips, and then when he's back home, he builds towers. And that's all he does. Okay? So keep that in mind. In the next scene, basically, after he gets picked up, we're introduced to Sam and Nick. And, Corey and Nick. I'm getting to Sam in a second. Corey and Nick are Jimmy's brothers. And Corey is played by one of those Savage kids.
Fred Savage.
Which, honestly, I think Ben Savage is the better of the two. I'm just throwing that out there because I'm a bigger Boys Meets World fan than Wonder Years.
I hate Fred Savage as an actor, but behind the lens, like behind the camera, I mean, he gave us It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and that show is phenomenal.
That's true.
So
that is true as well. And he was good for the 7 minutes he was in The Princess Bride.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Sam. Sam is all the boys' father. And he's played by Beau Bridges, which I'm going to also, this is going to be controversial here. I think Beau Bridges is the better actor.
I was going to say, I think Beau Bridges is actually great in this movie.
Beau Bridges to this movie is what Dennis Hopper was to Super Mario Brothers. He's the only saving grace. And it's because Beau Bridges, he kind of gives like this like aura that Jeff does. Okay? Like you can see that they're both similar. But Beau Bridges has a lot more warmth, whereas Jeff Bridges is a lot more cool. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I like the warmth of Beau Bridges over the coolness of Jeff Bridges. I love Jeff Bridges too, don't get me wrong, but I think Beau Bridges is underrated.
I feel like there was a side story of, because Beau Bridges is recently divorced, right? Yeah. And his character is recently divorced, and I feel like part of that divorce was because there's a secret side story of his alcoholism that they're just not showing in the movie. Like, because he attacks Boba Fett with a shovel later on in the movie.
For good reason.
I know, but still, like, that's an alcoholic rage right there.
Anyway, so yeah, he is completely underrated, and Beau Bridges is the best. There are some issues I have with some of the lines he says, but that's because they were written for him, and it comes off, when he says them, he looks like a buffoon, but it's still like better.
Drunk.
It's better that Sam says it being played by Beau Bridges than anybody else. Anyway, so Corey at this point is like really pissed. He's pissed because Jimmy is now being put into like an institution. He was in some kind of like home before, but it wasn't like in your room with a TV and a white sheeted bed and you can't go anywhere.
I was really confused at the beginning of the movie because there's all these adult characters and they're all talking shit about Jimmy. And I'm like, okay, who are the parents? Like, they don't really establish, like, what the hell is going on very well at the beginning of the... And I'm talking, like, the first, 5 minutes?
Right,
maybe?
right.
And I'm just like, who are all these characters? What do they mean to anything?
Yeah, well, you got a hint. When the sheriff picks him up, the dispatcher says, take him back to his mom.
Also, like, what is this town that they're tracking this kid down with a fucking plane? Like, that's insane.
It was funded by the Mormon Tabernacle Choir out there in Utah.
Because later on there's a line where the sheriff is like, we don't have this kind of manpower to keep finding kids. And I'm like,
you just used a fucking plane.
Obviously you do. You just used a fucking airplane to find them.
Right. Like, they didn't even need the airplane. It seems like there's one...
Also, they live in the middle of the desert. Like, how many fucking people are living there?
Right.
What do you mean?
They could have just driven and everything would have been fine. They would have found him. They
on the one road in the town that they live in.
It's not that it's just the one road. There could be many roads, but as you'll see throughout the movie, everybody seems to always be in the same fucking place with no rhyme or reason. So why can't the cops in the beginning happen to find him without a fucking airplane? Anyway, okay. So Corey's pissed that Jimmy's in a home, and like, oh my god, like he's in this home. That should be a cue right there that Jimmy isn't getting better. Okay? So Corey is pissed in the beginning of the movie that he's in a home because he thinks he should be getting better, but then we learn later he gets pissed when he actually sees Jimmy is not getting better, and it's like one of those things that just doesn't, one of the many things that just doesn't fucking make sense. So So Corey's all pissed off, and Nick is just like, hey, man, just chill out. And he's played by Christian Slater. Let's just go back to the DQ and kick back a couple.
Baby Jack Nicholson.
Yeah. What the fuck do you kick back at a DQ?
I don't know. Wait, they don't have concrete mixers.
Dilly bars?
And blizzards.
Some dipped cones and some... what do you exactly... I've never heard somebody use the term, let's go to DQ and kick back a couple.
That wasn't a thing you guys said in the 80s?
No, we were like, let's go to Dairy Queen. We never even called it DQ back then. Let's go to Dairy Queen and have a chili dog and an ice cream
Slam
cone.
back a chili dog.
Which
you gotta go fast.
You all know about the recent hot dog issues at my local Dairy Queen now, but but like what? Root beers? Did they have slush puppies? What are you kicking back? Like, I guess for me, I needed to know what that was.
But Christian Slater is...
Like, why couldn't Corey be like, no, I don't want a goddamn dilly bar right now, you know? Like,
well, apparently he's kicking back alcohol. Not Bo Bridges, he's kicking back the alcohol in the movie. So I think he's just like trying to get Fred Savage into his habits.
Well, maybe.
There's so much like... Yeah, because doesn't like Bo Bridges beat Christian Slater or something? Like, this movie's kind of dark. I'm talking about it. There's just a lot of stuff they just don't like. That's kind of hinted at, but they don't explore any of it.
It gets real dark when we talk about Lucas later, and his little special thing that he's got. But I thought maybe they're going to DQ to kick back some. I thought maybe they're going to the DQ to kick back some weak sauce, because this movie is filled with weak sauce. And going forward, I'm going to be pointing out where all the weak sauce is. So the only thing that really kicks off the plot going forward of this film is some random weak sauce of Corey. He just happens to have the address for the institution on a piece of paper. This makes no sense. He's got it. Great. Okay, so he knows where his brother is. But we're given that piece of information that he's got it. And he looks at it. We see it in the camera. And he puts it down, and he just starts tossing darts at a map. Like, he's tossing like a couple darts. He says where they land, and then he hits
California.
And somehow we're supposed to be led to believe that this piece of paper and him hitting California means time to go run away and kidnap my brother. Like, there's no strong basis behind that, except for we needed a reason for Jimmy to leave the house. For Corey to leave the house and go get Jimmy. And they couldn't think of anything better than he happens to have an address and he's tossing darts. Because we don't even know if Corey knows Jimmy's got this whole California thing going on.
Right.
It's never explained.
Yeah.
Right, because they don't live together. So, because Corey and Nick live with Sam, and then Jimmy is supposed to live with his mom and the stepfather, but yet was in some kind of home and now is institutionalized too as well. So we don't know how much knowledge Corey actually has. Maybe he has a lot and we're just left to assume. It's weak sauce.
Can I just say, like, right away, like, I don't know, mate, just go through the plot. Just go through it.
All right.
Just go.
All right, so at this point...
I'll get to it later.
Corey hops a bus, and he's got a skateboard, which, by the way, he's carrying this fucking skateboard, and we only see them use it once, and that's as a downhill bobsled on a highway.
I don't remember that part.
He actually never...
I was probably asleep.
He never actually uses it as intended. Anyway, so he leaves to go get Jimmy, and now this is where shit starts to get crazy for me. And I'm talking about logistically here. So he goes into the institution, he's looking through these doors, and he finds Jimmy, and he goes, Jimmy, let's go to fucking California. Or whatever. And we're led to believe that he gets from this, wherever the floor is that Jimmy's located, to some side door. And it looks like kind of like a mansion kind of from the outside. I wouldn't call it an
really
institution.
Does. Yeah, it looks
but like a plantation house or something.
Yeah.
And they stow away in the back of a Wonder Bread truck or a Hostess truck, a bakery truck, whatever you want to call it. And so as they sneak into the truck,
I think I know where you're going with this.
you see the delivery guy going into the front main entrance of the home institution. We'll just call it a home. Number one, if anybody's seen the inside of those trucks, it'd be impossible for a fucking cat who is laying down sleeping to hide in one of those things, let alone two fucking children.
Right.
You go in, and then on each side you got racks. They go up and down, and those hold the trays.
Yeah, there's racks everywhere.
Racks everywhere, and you go straight through, and then you get to this door that goes to the cab. Where the fuck are they hiding in this truck? Okay? Where? Where could two kids possibly be hiding in a truck that's full of racks, whether they're full of bakery or empty? Where the fuck are they hiding? Okay? Right? So I've got a problem with that. Number two, they try to make it like the driver's oblivious. Like the driver's never been in the back of his truck. Because when they stop at the gas station for the driver's next delivery, you see him with the new tray
Yep.
leaving the front of the cab like he's never been in the back of the truck the whole time. Which then technically allows the kids, that gives them, that helps the plot give validity that they were able to hide. But still, nobody, and because I've also been a delivery driver, nobody makes fucking deliveries from the front of their fucking truck. They always go to the back of their truck.
I thought the exact same thing, and I'm like, how the fuck did he not see these kids?
Right. He's got to take the old tray, he's got to put the old tray back in there, then he's got to go to his destination, then he's got to go in the back, then he's got to pull the new tray out, and sometimes the trays don't even have what they're supposed to have on them. You're supposed to pick and pull, and put the shit for your delivery on the tray, and then take the tray in.
I didn't even catch when they left the plantation or the institute that I didn't notice that the bread truck guy left the truck or whatever. So when they pulled off, like, I just thought Fred Savage was driving this truck.
Yeah.
Until like the next scene.
Either. Right.
And so I was like, so what's the problem with this? Like, why do I remember them having such a hard time getting to California?
Right.
Right. Also, like, every time California is brought up by, like, any other characters, everybody acts like California is, like, this, like, magical place or whatever. Like, it's, like, some sort of, like, fucking wonderful thing where, like, dreams... I mean, I guess that's kind of what it was. What people... I don't know. I think...
Hollywood.
2020 California is not any of that.
There's people leaving California
2020,
nowadays.
2021. Holy shit.
But yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. The kids, technically, there's no way for them to hide in there. And that driver should have been going to and from the back of his truck to make his deliveries. It's just weak sauce. More weak sauce. Another problem, still related to this as well, is when Sam and Nick, along with Christine, who's the mother, and the prick husband Bateman, when they go to meet the director or the counselor or whatever this person is in the institution, when they find out that Jimmy ran away with Corey, the lady says, well, we saw the kids get in the back of a truck. Why the fuck didn't you go after the fucking kids? Okay, so here we go. Logistics again. So, backing up to when they left, when the kids walked out. They walked out the building. They go into the back of the truck. As they're going into the back of the truck, you see the driver walk in. So at this point, the kids have been seen. The driver is just entering the building. The driver's got to go to his destination where he drops off the bakery. He's got to put the bakery where it goes. He's got to swap his rack. He's got to get a signature. Maybe he's got to get paid too. Maybe he's got to get paid. Maybe he says he's going to go get the petty cash box. So he's in there for a while. Then he's got to come back. And then technically he should be going in the back of his truck, but we're going to be left to assume that somehow he's rotating his fucking stock in the front seat. Still, he's got to go then into the front seat of the truck, and he's got to go into his log. He's got to finish his log for that delivery, and then he's got to bring up the log for the next delivery, and then he's got to start the fucking truck because it was not running, and then he's got to drive off at a slow pace until he hits the road. Where the fuck were these people that saw the kids the entire 10 minutes they were waiting for the fucking driver to get back? Or the 10 minutes before they were actually on the road? Or why couldn't, like, Like, if they were, like, to a point where, like, oh, the truck's driving off, like, they're already running outside the house, let's get in a car and we can, like, stop the truck. Like, where were these people?
Well...
Did they have no limbs? Did, like, somebody with, like, no arms and legs be like, out the window, the kids, oh, I can't do anything about it? Like,
well, no, I think they were just distracted because, like, you know, now we get so many things delivered to our house. When the bread guy pulls up, everybody's just so fucking excited for bread. Bread doesn't... You used to have to go to the store for bread, and now the bread comes to you. It was like... It was an event. It's something that the family gathered around for when the bread man came, and they just couldn't.
So
be
in other words,
bread.
they saw the kids run away, but somebody was like, "Fuck that! I need to get my new two-pack of Twinkies."
Yeah.
And then we'll just call the parents later.
And plus, this is like what, the middle of nowhere, Utah. Of course, they haven't seen a new face in months.
Just more weak ass sauce that makes no sense. Weak sauce. Shit makes zero sense. The whole thing makes no sense. Anyway. And lastly, still talking about the exact same fucking scene.
Jesus.
Corey, they essentially say Corey was the one that running away, that wanted to run away. Because based on his decision, Corey's the one that came and got Jimmy. Corey was on the one that ran away because they made the comment where Sam was like, "What about Corey?" And they're like, "Well, it was Corey's decision to run away, not Jimmy's. Jimmy doesn't run away."
But Jimmy's notorious for
Jimmy fucking ran away in the first scene.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting to when I said, remember that.
Yeah.
Jimmy, he runs away. It's what he does. That's why they send fucking choppers after him. They got them on standby. They say, like, he didn't leave on his own volition. Like, he left on his own volition, just with his brother this time. Like, it makes no sense. And to say, like, oh, Corey doesn't matter because it was Corey that wanted to run away, like, Corey does matter. They both fucking ran away. Like, why is they make people, and that's another thing about this movie, they make people out to be big fucking dicks throughout the whole movie for no good goddamn reason. Everybody's a fucking prick in this movie.
Yeah, the biggest prick in this movie is Fred Savage, but I mean, he fucking sucks. He fucking sucks.
Yeah, anyway, so I don't know who writes this weak ass sauce shit, but anyway, this is where we're first introduced to Putnam, and he's the private dick hired to kidnap Jimmy and return him to Christine. And
he's a private child abductor.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
And he says he's really good at it.
So he's got to return Jimmy to Christine and Bateman as they're his legal guardians, and I'm pretty sure that all the shit that this Putnam does throughout the movie, with one phone call at the very start of his bullshittery, could easily get him arrested and his license revoked and held in jail for who knows how long until trial.
Is this 2021 laws or is this 1989 laws?
No. I mean, you go out and you like slash someone's tire and and fuck up their car and get it illegally towed and try to randomly snatch kids who you think is who you're looking for, but then they turn, then when you got them, they turn around and it's like, oh, these aren't the kids that I want to grab and touch. Like, there's so many fucking
even
things.
Later on in the casino scene when what's her name yells
We'll get there.
I mean, there's a court case. There's a court case to be had.
Yes.
Like,
there's so many times that with one phone call.
I mean, this guy should just be arrested, like, just based on his job alone. Like, that's nothing that has ever existed ever.
That's where Sam makes a mistake. Is like right after the first initial time that Putnam flattens Sam's tires. That's vandalism. Like, Sam could have just went to the phone booth right there in the bus station, made a phone call, gave the cops the guy's information, and Putnam would have never been a problem the rest of the movie.
But instead, he slams his rolling rock and grabs a shovel.
Yeah. Anyway, it's game time. So this is where the video games start kicking in. I said the bus station. Let's talk about some Double Dragon, double weak ass sauce. So they go to the bus station. They want to get a ticket, and of course they're ignorant children. They think that $40 is going to get them from Utah to California when it's only going to get them halfway across Utah. And so as Corey goes to talk to the depot manager, he tells Jimmy, oh, go play some Double Dragon. Well, we can tell during this sequence there doesn't seem to be a cut. They pop in the quarter, Jimmy starts playing, and then you see Corey walk to the counter. He talks to the depot manager about the ticket. He gets his, bad news about how far his money's going to get him. And then he turns and looks out the window, and he sees a bus out there, and then he turns and looks at Jimmy or something, and then he goes to get him. So I'm thinking maybe, I counted 30 seconds. The second time I watched it, I counted 30 seconds. We're going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say maybe some of the cuts, like him walking to the counter, him turning to look outside, and him then turning to look at, go get Jimmy, we'll give him 2 minutes. Whether it's 30 seconds or 2 fucking minutes, you can't score 50 fucking thousand points on Double Dragon. It's not possible. It's impossible. And even as a kid watching that movie and having played Double Dragon, even then, that's like the only thing back then I had a problem with. No, there was 2 things. I'll get the other one later. I knew then that you couldn't get 50,000 points that quick. Like, it was not impossible. I mean, it was not possible. Yet we're led to believe that, first of all, a near perfect, I did look this up recently, a near perfect run of playing Double Dragon to reach 50,000 points takes roughly about 10 minutes. Near perfect. Roughly 10 minutes. And you're almost at the end of the game at that point. So then we're led to believe when they start talking with Haley at the depot, who kind of blackmails them. She's just some random girl that just happens to fucking be there. They're going to make a bet for basically Haley's bus ticket. And the bet is then they're going to replay Double Dragon, and Jimmy has to beat Haley because she's also some kind of video game genius that just happens to be there. So Haley, through a series of cuts that we can clearly see take longer than Jimmy's initial play of Double Dragon, she gets farther in the game and takes longer and only gets to 25,200 points. Now it's Jimmy's turn, and Jimmy needs to surpass that, and there's more cuts, so we're led to believe more time passes by than the initial Jimmy playing Double Dragon. However, Jimmy somehow takes longer the second time to achieve 25,201 points than he did to achieve 50,000 his first time around. Like, it's a Double Dragon double weak sauce. It makes, like, that whole, like, you're talking like a 4-minute sequence right there. Makes no sense. Like, they completely contradict each other.
Now, I wasn't like an arcade child of the 80s. In fact, when I was old enough to actually go to the arcade by myself, they were kind of getting phased out at that point.
Right.
So, were platformers and just really weird, there's not a lot of platforming arcade games. They exist. And beat-em-ups, were those something like kids would like... I bet I could get more points than you in this. Like, I feel like Galaga and like Asteroids and stuff like play more to that than... Like, I feel like if you're playing Double Dragon, you're playing 2-player with somebody else.
That's what I was going to say. That is, if it allowed for 2 players, you play 2 players, and it was usually always co-op.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Fighting games back in the 80s weren't really a thing, so you didn't really have the versus games back then.
Yeah.
So it was usually 2-player co-op. But you got to remember in Double Dragon, too, like, you can actually attack the person you're playing with.
Because I feel like when I was a kid playing Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter in the arcades, like, me and my friends weren't like when we weren't fighting each other, if we were just playing one player and like kind of switching off, we weren't like, but I can get farther than you, you know. It was more like, no, let's try to get farther together to see who the final boss is and what this last person is and blah blah blah.
Right.
Like, it was more of like we're trying to beat the quarter munching machine than we are trying to beat each other.
In some games, it wasn't much about the score either. I mean, with me and anybody that I played at the arcade with, which you know, and when I say arcade, I'm talking about like a restaurant or a bar or a bowling alley that had like, you know, 5 to 10 machines or something like that.
Yeah.
We'd always talk about how far you got in a game. Mm-hmm. Nobody gave a shit about scores, really, back then. At least for me and my group of friends. Nobody cared about scores. So, yeah, there's that, too. Like, them somehow doing scores. Like, I know they needed to... You know, they already kicked off the why is Jimmy now going to California with Corey, like, that dumbass reason. And now they need to introduce the dumbass reason that Jimmy is this wizard. Or Rain Man
The
Jr.
titular title. He's a wizard.
He is a wizard. Oh, by the way, so they get Haley's ticket and they go to change it in for the bus, and then like this bus like drives off. Why the fuck isn't the depot manager announcing departures? That's his fucking job.
There was nobody on that bus anyway. There was nobody on that bus.
It's just another dumbass reason for these kids to get stuck there, because technically you can watch tons of movies of people in fucking train stations and bus stations and airports. You hear people making announcements of shit all the time, but in this one little fucking hick hole-in-the-wall town in Utah,
say, like, the bus station looks like an outhouse.
Yeah, like he doesn't give a shit.
An outhouse.
He's probably taking his shit behind the counter.
He doesn't give a shit. Like,
anyway.
Yeah.
So now they decide, since they missed the bus, they're going to go across the street. And what happens to be across the street? A restaurant that happens to have a video game built into the booth table.
Literally every place they go into has a fucking video game in it.
Every other booth that you see in the restaurant does not have it.
What a time to be alive.
Yeah, I know. We're going to get there. I'm going to talk about that too. So it happens to have a TV screen in the booth table. And you see Jimmy, his hands, it looks like he's beaten off. But he's really holding a controller.
Giving himself a good dry rub.
Yeah, giving himself a good dry rub because they're all out of sauce. And he's playing Ninja Gaiden. Ninja Gaiden.
Nintendo.
Isn't it? Yeah, it's...
Nintendo.
I think about it like, oh...
Play Ninja Gaiden exclusively on Nintendo.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, too. Like, except with the exception of later... some arcade games that he's clearly playing that aren't Nintendo. Every game that he plays that is an arcade game that has an arcade version is still always an NES version. So there's that. Yeah, but it must have been a time to be alive out west, because it seemed like from Utah to California, they had video game fucking Nintendo shit every fucking goddamn place you turned. Players Choice 10 cabs.
Again,
like, where I never saw one until I was an adult, didn't know they existed. They were in every fucking corner like a goddamn McDonald's.
Like these hole-in-the-wall in the middle of the desert fucking places.
Anyway, so they're talking, and this is how they get to the point where they talk about the destination, because now Haley's watching Jimmy play Ninja Gaiden, and Haley exclaims, "Are you kidding me? Like, Jimmy's on his second playthrough and he hasn't even taken a single hit." And then you see the screen, and there's 2 bars missing off his health. Which, at that point, she also happens to find this restaurant happens to have Nintendo Powers or some shit in a magazine rack.
That would never happen. Nintendo wants your fucking money.
Well, I don't know. This seemed like a video game diner to me. So if they have an NES built into a booth, they probably do have gaming magazines. But yeah, they just happen to have the gaming magazine that had the Video Armageddon ad, and Haley's like, "I'm gonna help you get there. Let's go," because she's a lying whore and she only wants a cut of the money. But she comes around. Character arc for her.
Which is like, all right, well now at least there's a reason to go to California. Like before, there's just like, I don't know, this movie needs to go places, California. Like, we need to have some sort of setup to get them there.
Right.
And, like,
they were going there before, but
like
nobody knew why.
Yeah, right, yeah. Which you figure out, like, in the last 15 minutes of the fucking movie, but...
Yeah. So, going back to, like... See, everything kind of circles back sometimes to even that intro. So, how the fuck does everyone looking for the kids know exactly where the fuck to go? With the interstates, the highways, the byways, the small town roads, nowhere or the ones that lead to hole-in-the-wall towns, they always seem to know where the boys are, showing up just a spell later, all the time, after the kids have been there. Even Sam and Nick, we're still talking about the bus depot town, they show up just minutes after Putnam does, even though 5 minutes prior we saw a scene with Sam and Nick driving, and they're talking about how Sam drove south the wrong way all night long.
He was drunk.
How the fuck then does Sam and Nick happen to still show up where they're supposed to show up, even though we don't know how they showed up there or why they're there, or how does anybody even know the kids are there right after Putnam, unless Putnam made the same mistake, and therefore did the kids too?
Well,
no, but they didn't. And I'll tell you why when we talk about Reno, but go ahead.
well, I was gonna say, I think they might have got the red matter from planet Vulcan, and when Spock took that to try to save. I don't remember it. Anyway, go ahead. Black holes.
Black holes.
Time bends differently and works differently. This is a secret Star Trek movie. You didn't know that?
The worst Star Trek movie is better than this fucking movie. Anyway, it's no sense weak sauce. That's just every fucking place. It just makes no sense. The kids are almost randomly going someplace, and the adults somehow seem to always find them. And there's only ever one time where the adults are ever given any information that we see. Every other time they're just randomly fucking driving. And they always end up in the same place. It's just so dumb. Anyway, let's go back to the kids now. Get off of Putnam and Nick and Sam, and they're just, and now Putnam is trying to keep Nick and Sam from finding the kids, because Putnam, as he said earlier, like, I only make my money if I bring the kids back, which that's just a dick asshole move. Technically,
He's just a pedophile. They're paying a pedophile to get kids.
A good private dick gets paid no matter what he comes up with. He might get a little bit more if he succeeds, but there's still
He's not a detective.
fee.
He's just a fucking child abductor.
Oh my god. Anyway,
They're like, who's the best child abductor? Get him out of jail and let's hire him to go get our kids. You give them a pair of their underwear, like, here, smell it. Now go get them.
The kids, we're gonna talk about how.
Can I keep the underwear though?
That's gross. The kids. Let's talk about kids doing stupid kid things, right? So the kids in this, they're trying to make money now. At this point, they're gonna hustle, and they constantly make money. Then they lose money, and then they make money, and then they lose money. Rinse and repeat. That's like the whole fucking cycle from Utah to California. And you think they'd learn to keep their fucking money in their pockets, but they never fucking do. As soon as they flash it around somebody and somebody knows they got money, they go and fucking get robbed. And Haley herself even knows when Corey's fucking stashing money in his socks because he's careless when he's trying to hide it. The kids are fucking dumb. All of them. They're all fucking dumb.
Fred Savage is the dumbest of all of them. But to my, so the problem I really have with, not only this movie, but just, this era of movies, whenever the plot's very centered around children, none of them talk like they're children. The lines of dialogue that are written for these kids are still written as if they were written for adults. Kids don't talk like this, ever.
No, but they sometimes do, and that's actually kind of smart. Because when you've got a group of kids together,
you're telling me
there's always going to be
Fred Savage talked like that.
There's always going to be this sense in a group of kids, especially when you get three minimum together, where somebody is always on the inside going to try to one up the other one, and they all have that mentality secretly, but they won't ever show it except for how they talk, and they'll try to talk like they're acting like an adult, but they're not. It's actually Psychology 101 for kids, as far as when they gather in groups. So kind of part of that is kind of smart, but no. Now hold on. Hold on. But how they try to do it in this movie does not work.
I think it's just a lot of, like I said, it's a lot of movies in this era. Another Fred Savage movie, Little Monsters.
All right, now I happen to love Little Monsters. So if you're gonna shit on Little Monsters, we're gonna stop right there.
Fred Savage sucks in Little Monsters. So
well,
I hate Fred Savage. And I'm so glad that he gets hit so many times in this fucking movie.
You know, there was this one time where I remember I don't know where I was. This is gonna be really funny. I don't know where I was. But somebody was watching a movie on a TV, and I could hear it. I wasn't watching it. I wasn't in the same room or anything like that. And some of the dialogue, some of it sounded interesting, but then I heard this voice. And I'm like, oh, is that fucking Fred Savage? I'm not going to want to watch a Fred Savage movie. And I gave it like about, I don't know what I was doing, but I gave it some time. Turns out it was a Demi Moore. They just happened to fucking sound the same. Child Fred Savage and Demi Moore.
Oh, Demi Moore.
Like this, yeah. They kind of have this like rasp in their voice a little bit. I
can't imagine it.
I seriously thought, hearing Demi Moore's voice, it was Fred Savage, and I wasn't going to go watch the movie. All right, moving along anyway. Power Glove. I love to Power Glove. It's
Nintendo.
It's so bad.
Oh yeah, he does have that line.
Lucas.
I forgot about that.
That is the creme de la creme of the entire movie, Power Glove.
And then Fred Savage is like, "Don't touch my girl," like, and then she's like, "What?" Like, don't touch her with your Power Glove.
I do think that there's actual T-shirts that say "I love to Power Glove. It's so bad." I think they exist because that is the takeaway from this movie is that line. It's like the best line in the whole movie, and because the line is bad too, and the presentation of it. I love to Power Glove.
He looked a lot more serious
so
than you
bad.
do.
Yeah, I know.
He was really into his Power Glove.
By the way, tough guy Lucas, who loves to Power Glove it so bad. I'll let you guys know right now. The way he was playing it with Rad Racer.
Keep rolling, 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 rolling.
If you play Rad Racer with your Power Glove like that, and I know this from experience, actually. I did know one person that had a Power Glove. I never had one. It was a little bit less subtle. It was more like just a bob like that to move the car. You start going like this, like you're driving a steering wheel, that car's going all over the fucking place.
Yeah, I was gonna
There's
say,
no way he can play the game like that.
Of all the things that I've heard about the Power Glove, the main thing was that it almost never worked. So...
That's true.
Again... Nintendo Power Glove. Of course it works perfect.
Plus he was sitting there doing some kind of input on it as the kid was still firing up the Nintendo. So it's sitting there making these beeps, and as soon as he's done inputting it, the kid presses the power button and there's your Rad Racer. So anyway, that didn't make any sense.
Also, again, Fred Savage claims ownership over Haley, just out of nowhere. Just again. Want to hammer that in.
Right. So, and at this point, you know, the adults are kind of coming back into town again, coincidentally, and more damage is being done to cars, and you know, the adults, I mean, you had like she calls them truckers, but they're really like Mexican farmers that were hauling cows.
Yeah.
They rob the kids. Like, all the adults in this movie.
And the lines with her and be like, I know the trucker code. Like, damn, what have you been doing with these truckers? Like...
She's okay with letting them touch her bobbins.
God. There's so much wrong with
But the adults in the movie have no morals. The only ones that seem to have morals is Sam. And that's really about it.
Basically, yeah.
Sam's the only one that's got morals, you know? Like, he's the only one trying to do right, and he,
The mom.
Later.
But then
she's
again,
still a bitch.
She's in the movie for like 5 minutes.
She wants nothing to do with Jimmy. It's like, she probably went to court like, I'm battling for sole custody, and then when she had it, she's like, okay, you're going into a home. Like that's essentially what happened.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I guess.
And I
Again,
think
she's only
Bateman
in
has
the
something to
movie
do
for
with
like
that.
5 minutes, so it's like, yeah, probably.
But I mean, fuck everyone too. Like, fuck everybody in this movie, except for
Particularly,
Sam. And maybe not Nick. Nick is all right too. I just don't like Christian Slater.
Yeah, I don't. It looks like he.
I never did.
How old is he in this movie?
Christian Slater?
Yeah,
I think like he's 36.
Okay, I was gonna say, because like, why does it look like he's had plastic surgery already? Like, holy shit, his whole face is like as spread out as his table. Like, I'm like, holy fuck, dude.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna be skipping ahead a little bit here. We're gonna be talking about Reno. And how kids, they go into Reno, and they find Spanky, the black truck driver. Shut up.
Spanky? What the fuck? This is a Little Rascals movie now? What the fuck? Spanky?
Didn't you watch the whole thing through?
Yeah.
Okay. You fell asleep the first time, you watched it the second time,
Plus I fell asleep again. This movie's so boring. This movie's so boring.
So all we know about Haley really is that she's from Reno, and her dad's a trucker, and he's never around. And that's how she knows all these trucker people. Those are like the only truths. Everything else out of her fucking mouth is a little fucking lie. But anyway, so they go to Reno because they need more money, because they once again lost their money. Some kids beat them up. They lost their fucking money. Yet somehow they get beat up somewhere. I'm guessing probably at this point, because they don't really say, they're probably in Nevada, probably the eastern to mid part of Nevada where Lucas is and shit. And they get...
Yeah, I'm agreeing, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I thought you went like, yeah.
No.
Nyet! So I'm thinking that's probably where they were, because then right after that, they're headed to Reno. And somehow they also got to Reno like strangers are just picking up fucking kids. And surprisingly, except for the Mexican farmers, the kids didn't have any money to flash, so that's probably why they got as far as they got, because they didn't get dumped on the side of the road after getting mugged. So they get
right. I forgot about that.
So they get to Reno, and kids, even when I was a kid, casinos.
Dude, I still
really
get carded when I
strict.
get into the fucking casino.
You have boundaries. Kids are not supposed to cross certain lines, yet these kids are right up against, and it's not in play, there's no play going on, but they're right up against a craps table.
Yeah.
Shouting bets at Spanky.
Right. Oh, that's Spanky?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I know he had a name.
That's Spanky.
I didn't even know they bothered to give him a name.
Good old Spanky.
Now, is that a name that Haley gave to him because
Nope.
she knows, the truckers?
Because that's what he does to her.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm alluding to. So I was trying to say without saying it.
But anyway, so I guess at this point, at least for probably the better part of a few minutes, these kids are allowed to sit at this craps table and shout bets to an adult playing craps. Sure, I mean, why not? At least until then they cash out, they go get their money, they've got the money, and then they get kicked out. Why? So they were done. They had to have left the table. They went to the cashier. They changed in the chips. They got their money. And then sometime between
And the cashier's like, wait a minute. Maybe the kids did the whole thing. Maybe they cut it out of the movie. Maybe they did the whole thing where they all three of them stood on each other's shoulders and wore a trench coat. Yeah.
If they're gonna get thrown out of a casino, it's gonna get thrown out at the point where the kids are at the craps table shouting bets, not when they've already got their money and they're on the way out the door. That made no sense. Anyway, I mean, what has so far, right?
Yeah.
And it might be maybe Reno's a little bit nicer than Vegas ever was, because Vegas was run by mafia. I don't know.
Shh, hey, let's not.
And
mafia.
How do they always find Spanky? Like every time she needs to find Spanky, he's an OTR truck driver.
Dude, she knows the
and
trucker
he's always
code.
home.
She knows the trucker code. What is he doing out there when he's not delivering, dude? There's not a lot of places to deliver to.
And just because Haley is from Reno doesn't mean at the age of like 11 that she should know how to get. Well, she's probably a little older than that. I mean, she claims that people are touching her bobbins. So she's got to probably be a little bit older than 11. But 11, 12.
God.
11, 12.
Fucking gross. Like fucking...
How does she know, especially craps? I mean, I grew up in Milwaukee. That didn't mean I knew how to fucking brew beer by the age of 12, okay? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm getting at?
Wait, you did it? Dude, I've been making cheese and beer since I was 5.
Oh, boy.
Don't you remember when Mom and Dad got me my own cow?
Oh, yes, good old Bessie.
Right.
Bessie the brown cow.
I mean, she's probably known. She's probably famous in Reno. She's probably got like a nickname like Hagelin Haley. Just haggling everybody.
Maybe.
You know?
Maybe, yeah.
Like, it's just haggling. Like, who's that kid at the craps table? It's just haggling Haley. Like,
just don't get close to her.
Right.
She'll scream that you touched her bobbins.
She'll take your money and scream rape.
And she's also, by the way, when she's playing, well, she's technically the one playing craps. But when she's shouting out these bets, she's shouting them out like it's like a strategy. When technically, and I know a little bit about craps, I'm not a craps master, otherwise I'd be at the casino trying to make money playing craps. Probably not during COVID because I ain't touching no fucking dice, but still. The bet she's calling out, that isn't craps strategy. Using a pass line and kind of trying to guess off of probability, that is as much strategy as craps gets. The shit that she's calling out to Spanky, like she knows what's gonna fucking make her money, is literally just fucking dumb luck guessing. That always happens to fucking win.
I'm just laughing because why? That character's name is actually Spanky?
Yes.
All right.
I mean, the whole movie, and there's so many things that could have technically gone wrong in this movie, which would have made it more interesting. Like, you know, what if, like, Haley, like, was like, okay, now put everything on fucking 11 or whatever the fuck the last thing was that got them all the money. And then the dice rolls, and it's like, instead of a 6, it was a 4 or something, you know, whatever. Like, and then all of a sudden they lost. Oh, shit. Like, she would have looked fucking dumb. And you know what? They should look fucking dumb. Like, they were losing their money in, like, dumb ways to begin with, but they should have looked, like, super dumb. Like, all these plans, like, the big plans, at one point should have backfired. And since the bus station, no real plan backfired, except because they were always moving, they're always going where they needed to go, they just kept losing their money.
Well, it's all Haley. Like, ever since Haley comes into the movie, things get moving. Like, she's basically the one that... Yeah, she's basically the one that gets stuff moving. Fred Savage doesn't do shit in this movie. He honestly doesn't do a damn thing, and you take him out of the movie and almost nothing changes. Because if you think about it, again, going back to the beginning of the episode, but fucking not Julian, what the fuck is the other kid's name?
Jimmy?
Jimmy. Jimmy runs away anyway, so what if he just happens to run away to that little bus stop or whatever, and happens upon Haley anyway?
Well, what if
eventually?
What if neither of them happen upon Haley?
Well, then the movie doesn't happen. But I'm saying, if you take Fred Savage out, the movie doesn't change.
So you think they would have just
shuffled
themselves? They would have shuffled themselves out of the bus stop, and then here comes Putnam, and that's it. It's done. That's what you're saying?
I forgot about Putnam. Well, no, because Jimmy will probably just run away again. Like, he runs away. That's what he does. That's what they tell us that he does. Besides for building blocks in fucking whatever. Which there's a nice little Easter egg in Fallout New Vegas when you visit the movie theater. Well, there's two. There's two Easter eggs in Fallout New Vegas. When you visit one of the movie theaters, and there's the popcorn, the little popcorn things or whatever, that are stacked up in the middle of the drive-in, and then the end of the movie when they visit the giant dinosaur in Fallout New Vegas, when you visit the giant dinosaur, there's this one room that's just filled with a bunch of yellow lunch boxes.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So
I know about that. I know about that one. I didn't know about the popcorn.
Yeah.
Throwback Easter egg.
Which I didn't even connect any of that until I rewatched the movie for the show. I was like, oh, that's in New Vegas. I'm like, that's why there's just random. That's why there's lunch boxes in that room, and that's why there's just random popcorn towers in the middle of nowhere.
Well, did you
like?
Did you notice that that there's also like an Easter egg in Super Mario Brothers 3 to the movie?
Is it the video game?
If you beat,
Is it the entire game?
if you beat the level 6 and you rescue the king as Tanuki Mario, and he comes back down, he's got the wand and or whatever, you get different messages.
Right.
The king in there says, California.
Shut up.
Okay, anyway. No, that's not true.